Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another Gunpla review, and I am trying to thin out the backlog as much as possible, and it's going pretty good. Today I'm going to be taking a look at something I've had in the backlog for quite some time. This right here is the high-grade JESTA SHEZARR type Team A. I've also got the Team B in the backlog too, and this is from Gundam NT. The high-grade Gundam JESTA has always been one of the most kick-ass Gundam designs, especially for a gym-style suit. I would say grunt, but it's definitely not a grunt by any margin. Anyway, as you can tell from the color of this box, this was Premium Bandai. It came out in 2018. Wow, that doesn't feel that long ago. But yeah, if you want one, you can get yours where I got mine, and that is through Bai, link in the description. Now let's get it built. Alright, so blasting this box open, I remember back when the original JESTA came out, I really did love the high grade kit. I can remember not really loving the master grade so much, and I have no idea what's wrong with me because I built multiple master grades of it since, and it's, well, out of all of the Unicorn master grade Gundam kits, it's the one that held up the best over time, as far as all of the ones that I built. So yeah, there really isn't much to say about this unique-wise. The manual is that kind of classic sort of Premium Bandai manual where they didn't really do anything to jazz it up. It's just the instructions to put it together on a pamphlet. Nothing really, special about it. There are a lot of stickers in here. I assume this may have always been the case with the JESTA. I'm going to try and use as, well, little of these as possible because I don't really like stickers too much, but we'll see what happens. And as for the parts, there seems to be a big mix of what is standard JESTA parts like these ones right here. We also do have some full armor Unicorn parts in here as well. That, of course, being for the various fuel tanks around back. And we do have some SHEZARR specific ones like that cool little extra thruster segment for up on the back. So let's get started. So starting off with the leg and right on into the foot. This is simple enough. You're just building up the kind of parts that make up the color separation. The joint inside this is a polycap, the usual kind of high grade universal century polycap ankle. And then you just pop on some more parts. There really isn't a whole lot to it. This here is what we get in the end. And one thing I will say about this particular kit is it's mainly made out of dark plastic. So this will mark up incredibly so. You're always going to get these little stress marks. So with a kit like this, it's always good to nip from a distance and file them down. Again, I'm just trying to get this built as quick as possible. So I was just double nipping. But even with that, you're still going to get those little dots. So again, a file is definitely your best friend here. So the JESTA is definitely a classic high-grade build. That is, you build up the different elements of the particular limbs. Starting off with the upper leg here. This right here being the leg aspect of the waist joint. Or should I say, the hip joint. This continues on throughout the whole thing. There's a polycap into this section for the knee. And again, just sandwich on some more plastic. Continuing on with the upper leg, we've got some polycap in the upper leg. And then it's armor onto that upper knee segment. And then that part we squidge the polycap into, attaches in there again. This marks up a little bit too. So this is a kit that will require a whole lot of cleanup. Ankle joint is a polycap onto a plastic piece. Same goes for this segment of the knee, and funnily enough, this is not its original knee segment. This is a brand new segment for the SHEZARR, which is quite interesting. I don't know why it would need to be any different. Next up, we've got the calf armor, and that bit we just built goes up top here. The ankle then down bottom. These two bits then slap together like so. And then we've got a front armor here, which is always nice to see. It definitely resembles the Unicorn a little bit. And that does make sure we don't have any kind of nasty seam down the front. On the back then we've this section. Once again, this is not an original part from the original JESTA. The SHEZARR seems to have a brand new rear segment, and that pops on to the back. A bit of side armor goes on here, and then you just assemble everything you've built thus far. So that is the ankle like that, the upper leg then like that, and finally then the part that will lead to the waist joint. So there we go. That is both legs complete. So far not too bad. There is the bend at the knee, so can't complain about that. There is the foot. There is no toe bend or anything like that in here. And there is no, well, there is actually. There's a sticker that's meant to go into that there thruster, which apparently is this one right here. So it means what you're missing inside is black because the edge is the right color. So you could just pan a line in there or get some ink in there and that will do the job for you. So far, very, very nice. On to the next part. So now onto the waist So now onto the waist. I've popped in 2 polycaps so far. There is a third. Next up, we've got this little segment which just pops into the top of that. It's meant to make a click sound, but I didn't get one. We've got some vent sections then for attaching into the front skirting armors. There is number 2. I did cut these apart so they do move independently. And sometimes you don't actually know if that will work out until you actually do it. Sometimes they end up really loose and a big old pain in the arse. Sometimes I kind of half cut them and then just kind of break them apart while they're in there. But this time around I just kind of cut them the proper old way. Now they do feel a little loose, yeah. Sometimes you end up with this if you do cut them apart from each other. That, not really fantastic. We've got some nice side skirting armors in here. These have some grenades attached in. All 3 of these are attached together, and then this little segment then pops on top, just like so. Next then, this one pops in like that. This section here is for attaching on the fuel canisters around back, so we've got 2 of these guys to pop on there. This is a new butt flap for this kit. It does have that peg up top which you attach these on into just like that, and then finally all of that attaches onto the butt like that, and that's pretty much the waist unit complete. I will mention that this is one of those kits that doesn't actually have the hip joints attached in. You actually do what I'm about to do right now, which is attach the legs onto this pretty much like axle little segment like this. This is, if I remember correctly, what was on the 00 Quanta when I built that quite recently. And then all of that just attaches on up in there like so. All good so far. I'm not sure if I'd recommend cutting this center of the front skirting armors on this particular kit, but you know, if you do, you may need to tighten up the ball joints inside of that. Next up then in here is the torso. This is super simple. Pretty much everything comes on the A runner. It's just the front of the torso, a section that slots on through for some nice color separation. We've got a polycap neck, polycap shoulder joints, very typical for older high grade kits. You pop the back on then, color separation in the chest segments. I will mention there are stickers for these because they are meant to be in a slightly lighter color. And then we've got the collar section, followed by a little waist section with a polycap ball joint. And this then is what you get in the end. Again, quite simple, not really much to it. Nice color separation in the chest segments, even though apparently it's not the right color, but it's fine enough for me. Whoop, need a ball here. All right, so pop in that on. And then the torso pops on here. And I just actually can see in the viewfinder right there, this popping up in the background. Just so you know, in case you don't know, Casetify right now do have Gundam phone cases, which is pretty awesome. And this thing right here, I spend an awful lot of time shite-hawking with. So when you're like super bored, you can just do that. And every time I put down my phone, it's all spinning around the place. And that's just fun. On to the next part. Moving now onto the arms, then first off is the shoulder. We've got a polycap that attaches on here, which makes up the joint that attaches into the shoulder, so the actual shoulder joint just down there. Then we've got a second polycap. That one then attaches down the bottom, and you just simply then slap a second layer on top of that. So that tends to be pretty much what we see for this entire build. Polycaps between 2 halves. This right here then is the elbow joint, so one more little polycap in there. And then this segment and that segment build over it. So it's a single point elbow joint. The wrist joint is then one of those polycap joints with the kind of half ball joint. The elbow segment we made just pops on here. Again, sandwich that shut with another part. We have a little beam saber segment, and that is for using with this cuff part. This just pops on like that, and the beam saber just jams on in there. Next up, we just build up the, upper armor on here. That is pretty simple. This section finishes that off. And we do have a choice of hand builds. Now, there are fists in here, which are actual set fists, not holding hands. They're made out of 3 pieces and attached together just like so. 3 pieces, not including the back. So this is a nice little surprise in here. This was probably always the case. It's actually from a 2010 kit, so probably from another Gundam Unicorn kit, but that is nice. It's an actual fist. There's a widespread, at least one in here, and there's holding hands as well. So there's a whole lot of hand options. Anyway, when that finishes up, you just pop it on like so, and then the shoulder attaches on like that. So simple and effective. Just a simple single point bend right there. Beam saber around on that side. The arms, on this kit are asymmetrical, mainly around the back. One of them has the beam saber, one has some ammo magazines. All three of these are stuck together, so you can't pull out one at a time or anything like that. But if I remember correctly, you can on the master grade. Alright, so popping those on, there's one, and there is number two. Oh, missed! So yeah, that's what happens when you're building a kit and not actually looking at the kit. You're looking at a camera screen up in your upper left. So yeah, there we go. So far, so good. Looking extremely, extremely nice. Still, a lot more to go. So next up in here, we've got that backpack with the really cool kind of stark jegging kind of flare. It is definitely a bit on the simple side. We do have some big seam lines in it, but it's very interesting to know that even though this is heavily design based on the stark jegging, and this actually does include 2 whole runners of stark jegging parts, the only things that are actually used from the stark jegging runners are this little long bit here and this little long bit which attaches on top. That's it. 2 pieces per runner. So we do have 2 big old runners right here with tons of stuff just left over. So whatever kind of backpack, at least I assume that's a backpack, or is that the missile container? I think it might be the missile containers off the shoulders, and some of the armor is still left over. So just 1 and 2 pieces is all that's used of both. Anyway, once you have those 2 bits built, they just attach on like so. These are just rotating, so no ball joints, so you can't flare them outwards, sadly. But then again, that probably is accurate for the stark jegging. And we do also have this big, large thruster for right smack in the center. Alright, so right now is actually the end of the review. I'm done doing it, but I have to pop this in a little early because, well, I've just noticed a big, massive mistake I've been making through the whole review. Basically, that little hole right there, that big slot, that's for jamming in the big old fuel tanks. For the entire review, I obviously missed something in the manual, and hold on, I get the lighting a little bit better here. I've been jamming this in here, which does fit like pretty much perfect. This is a thing I've said in a lot of reviews, that you can put things in older kits into the wrong places. This fits like pretty much perfect. So I thought that's where the thruster went. It is not, and that is why it kept falling out on me, and I will be mentioning that later on, that it keeps falling out. But that is an absolute moot point, because I just saw these 2 lines right here, which is what this actually attaches into, and oh yeah, that totally attaches in there absolutely beautifully and perfectly. So when I complain about that fall out, ignore me. Popping it then onto the JESTA just involves popping the back on like so. Ooh, already lost that. Guess that doesn't hold on too incredibly great. No, that actually feels... Oh, no. Yeah, so it's attaching in via pressure with a seam line in the middle. That's definitely not the greatest design. Recommend cementing that in. The head in here is quite nice. It's the same as the old JESTA besides a couple of parts, so that is a front and back to make up the main part of the head. I hate throwing a clear piece over a gym style head without throwing a little bit of chrome in behind it, so I grabbed my display markers. These are fantastic, by the way. I just grabbed the chromiest silver and painted just the little circle section inside. So when you do actually put the lens on over it, or the visor over it, you will still see some of the detail inside. The next 2 parts that pop on exactly the same as before, and it's just the little kind of scope section that actually makes this the SHEZARR version of the JESTA. It all pops together, and there is a couple of stickers on it. This right here is what we get when it's built, so the stickers are that one on the back. There's a sticker on the front of the scope there in pink, and there's an orange one in underneath. As you can see, the bit of metallic in there helps that little mono eye section inside pop. I would chrome out the entire inside. I prefer that personally, but it would have taken a lot longer than that little ring section. Overall though, quite nice, but just like the rest of the kit, it would require quite a bit of cleanup to be perfect. Anyway, slapping the head on, and there is the JESTA complete. I absolutely love the addition of the, oh, don't touch that bit, of the stark jegging backpack. That is really cool. It really suits the design. I do recommend not cutting these apart from each other. They just kind of got all floppy now. But overall, pretty nice. Time to finish it off with the equipment. So now moving on to the equipment that comes included in here. And first off, we've got those big old fuel tank boosters. These are straight lifted from the full armor Unicorn kit, so we've seen these before. They build up quite nicely. There's gray and light blue color separation. And the only thing that really is new in here is we've got a brand new kind of landing gear section for holding your kit up. Otherwise, it's what we would have seen before. Next up then we have the rifle. Again, we would have seen this in the previous JESTA kits. Two parts that attached together, a nice barrel up front. We've got a right hand holding hand only, and it builds up nicely enough. We do have a whole bunch of other hands in here as well. And I will mention, we do have all of this right here left over on the runner. I just wanted to throw it together to see if we did. I put the wrong polycap in there, so I need to change that out. But the standard JESTA backpack is in here, the entire thing, if you like changing out equipment. But for me, I'm not sure if I'd say I'd prefer this back here. I definitely don't prefer the amount of nubs on it and the amount of cleaning up it would need and the amount of seam lines in it compared to this nice, simple, beautiful backpack. But that just is pretty cool. Anyway, aesthetics time. Okay, so jumping now on into the aesthetics, and there it is complete. This is the high-grade JESTA SHEZARR Type Team A. When it comes to gym-style mobile suits, there's a reason that JESTA is such a fan favorite, including the SHEZARR type right here. It is a very nice design. The high-grade version right here has been a staple for years, and rightly so. There's a lot of nice detail all over it. Out of box it is quite good, and overall it does capture the essence of the JESTA in 1/44th scale very nicely. I will admit though, it is a kit not without its flaws. This one has exacerbated a little bit because the new backpack not looking too great in some regards, but then again, overall like I mentioned, quite nice looking and definitely captures the JESTA nicely. As for the nice points, it's a pretty decent sized high grade kit and the color separation for the most part is pretty damn good at first glance. The head design in this kit is pretty dynamic and the addition of that little scope is pretty cool. Of course the sticker doesn't do it too much justice and it kind of does block the visor a little bit. The design makes it feel like you might be able to actually pull it out and put it in a flipped up position, but I don't actually see anything in the manual about that. The actual fists that this kit has is, well, they are, should I say, kick arse. These are real fists, not the hole in the hand ones, which are also included, but it's nice to have actual posed fists in a box. Now, as for the bad aspects, there are as many as there are good. First off, there's a lot of stickers in here. Now, like I said, the color separation is good at first glance. A lot of these, like these ones right here, and these ones right here, and these ones right here, these are for color correcting things that are already color separated. It's just they're not in a light enough blue, like here, around here, and the inside of these parts as well as the outside. They should be in a lighter shade of blue, matching this right here. But again, not really the biggest deal. We do have a sticker for that V in the crotch. Again, not the worst. That'd be easy to detail up. Definitely not the worst at all though. And there are a lot of thrusters like that one right there that do need blue on the inside, which these do not have. But for me, the absolute killer is some of the old school model kit sin. So as you can see, all the nubs on this are extremely critical. So if you are cleaning this up, you need to file every single one of them. On top of that, the amount of seam lines through this are, well, it's incredible. So if you even just take a look at these segments, there's seam lines. I don't even have to try and highlight them. Seam lines down here, seam lines through the tops of the shoulders, seam lines in the legs. There are seam lines everywhere. This once again just is an old school high grade thing. It's one of those kind of take it or leave it. No matter where you look, you're going to see some kind of seam lines. And when it comes to the point that they're making it like impossible for a part to stay on because there is no pressure, that's kind of definitely going to need a little bit more extra effort from yourself. Finally now, beside a very quick size comparison, there it is beside two other Universal Century suits, being the Gundam Mark II on the left, Gundam EX on the right. So as you can see, it's a slightly taller than average suit, but not that huge. So now jumping into the accessories, and here's the high-grade JESTA SHEZARR Type Team A with everything that it comes with. What we get in here is the weapons, including the beam saber and the beam rifle. We've got the 3 big fuel canister boosters for around back, and we do have 4 alternate hands now, including the 2 already attached onto it, and the 1 attached onto the beam rifle for a grand total of 7. So like I've already mentioned about the JESTA right here, the hand options in here are incredible. I've left these on the whole time. These are those dedicated fists and they are incredible. Now, as well as the dedicated fists, we also do have a pair of widespread open hands. They pop on like so and look extremely nice. When it comes to the close quarters weapons in here, we've got the single beam saber. Now there are 2 beams in here because beams come in 2s, but just the one actual saber. The handle is a pretty simple design in that mid blue. Getting this attached into the hand is super simple. It's the usual way. You pop on one of the holding hands. We have a left and a right for holding onto the beam saber. You slide the beam saber in like so. Super simple. There it is in a little bit of a pose holding onto the beam saber, and it is a old school kind of chubby beam, and there's not really much else to say about it. It does look good though, and it holds onto it perfectly. The reason I stuck this in the right hand as opposed to the left is because when this is not in use, you just pop out the beam and it can be stored around on the back of the left arm like so. So it does make sense that it would be grabbing it with the right. But then again, it is a mecha. There might be a mechanism to it that will swing it forward. Anyway, that is what it looks like stored in there, and onto the long range weapon. Next up then in here, we've got the beam rifle. It's simple. It's just 2 halves slapped together and the barrel up top. We do have a sticker for the sight section front and back. I just left it attached onto the hand because there is no storage options on the suit. This does not come out even though it kind of looks like it. And what can I say? The JESTA's beam rifle has always been awesome. I've always kind of preferred the bigger version from the JESTA cannon, and this might just be my favorite beam rifle of all time. Definitely in a bit of a competition with this one right here, which is pretty awesome too, but maybe this one. There's just something so simple and awesome about it. Attaching the beam rifle on is super simple, especially if you have it in the hand already. Just pop off a hand, pop this on like so, and it holds on very, very well. Once again, there's the JESTA in a little bit of a pose holding onto its beam rifle. Again, very nicely posable, holds on very, very nicely. The only thing that's driving me around the absolute bend is the thing back here. That thruster keeps on falling out. But yeah, this poses up ever so nicely, and there's just something just so cool about the overall design of the JESTA and its weapons. It really is peak when it comes to gym designs. Last up then in here, we've got the 3 fuel tanks. 2 of these have little arms on them, or should I say landing gears, so you can pose your kit standing up with them if you want in the air with these. Actually, hell, you know it can stand on the ground with it. It's in every single picture of it. Let's see if it can stand up on a stand with these attached. You can remove the landing gears because, of course, those won't be being used up in the space when it's flying around the place. To get these attached, you finally get to kick this out. Again, if you're going to use that as the backpack, because I'm probably not going to use the actual big thruster majiggers at all. I like the nice, stark jegging backpack personally. But yeah, these... Okay, do I pull this up first? I assume I do in order to attach these on in there. So far, so good, and it's handling the weight very, very nicely. In now with the second one, and they're mounted on there very well. The only one that might be an issue is the one that goes into that little hole we were having trouble before in. I just moved those thrusters down because they're meant to be down apparently, but yeah, pop that in. And yeah, this kit actually deals with those very, very well. So if you want this up on a stand with all of those attached, it's not going to knock a stir out of this kit at all. Let's get it back into the pose that we had it in, yeah? No issue. No issue whatsoever. Now that is definitely an impressive 1/144th scale display right there. Alright, so finally now onto the articulation on the JESTA right here. I will mention when it comes to the build on this that the polycap kind of aspects are a little bit loose in the hips right here. Nowhere else really, everything else is pretty much fine, but besides that, not too much. Anyway, because this is an older kit, it's just going to be the test pose. So yeah, the only thing I could really call the articulation on this is very old school. It's polycaps with the usual kind of articulation at most joints. So this is what you're going to get out of the usual pointer, or should I say the usual pose. There is more to the knee and stuff like that. It's just you cannot get the feet flat on the ground, so it is a little bit limited at the ankles. Besides that though, you will get nice poses out of it, just nothing incredibly dynamic, and it doesn't feel as solid as modern kits do, but hell, is that a nice design. So anyway, that right there is it for the review. If I was going to rank this, I'd give it bronze tier. Aesthetically, it's very, very nice overall. It does have some old school elements you won't really notice from a distance, but if you are a bit of a perfectionist and like your kit nice right out of box without additional effort, this one is not that kit. It needs some work and a lot of cleanup. When it comes to the accessories in here, they're very, very nice. They do what you need. You've got the standard backpack, but the new backpack is a little bit more limited than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be a little bit more fun than it actually is. Finally, when it comes to the articulation, it's standard, oldish, high-grade articulation, but it does everything you'll want it to. You'll pull off fantastic poses, just nothing too over the top. It's a nice kit, definitely. I love the JESTA, and if you like one too, I'm sure you'd like to fill out your high-grade collection of them. And if you do, I got mine off Buy, you can too. Anyway, as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I will see you tomorrow. Once again, I kind of finished this video right here without special thanks to the channel members and the patrons over on Patreon, including Simon Paskin, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, ShadowWolf179, Van Fawn, and Scotty Thomas.